Okay. All right, good evening, everybody. Sorry I'm running a little bit behind today. It is 7:01 p.m. on February 4th, 2026. This is the Riverside School District 96 Committee of the Whole meeting. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Okay. Mr. Barsati?
Present.
Ms. Kalick? Here. Mr. Olick?
Here.
Mr. Hunt?
Here.
Ms. Claps? Here. And Mr. Muirhead?
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you. With that, we'll do the welcome first. We'll do a welcome, or I'll invite Dr. Erin Dwyer up for a welcome to Hollywood.
Good evening, Dr. Ryan Toy and members of the school board. It's so great to have you here at Hollywood. The last time you were here was October, so a lot has happened since then. We actually have had a very busy year of growth and learning here at Hollywood as we celebrated our 100th day of school on Monday. It was quite fun here. Ms. Quaz and Mr. Ansky were dressed to the nines as 100-year-olds, even with their walkers and such, and we've had our kids dressed up, so it was a lot of fun here. Ms. Gahuli surprised her third graders with a glow room as their classroom. They walked in and everything was glowing, which was a lot of fun. But it's been a lot of learning opportunities for our students over the past 100 days. Our ELA curriculum, the kids are really intrigued and engrossed in the topics. Some of those topics that they've learned, kindergarten was nursery rhymes, first grade was the human body, second grade was Greek myths, and actually Mr. Murray has just recently found a play that our second graders went to, thanks to our PTA, last Thursday at the Irish Heritage Center, and it was called the Mythomania. So the kids got to learn about all of the Greek myths that they had learned about in their ELA curriculum. It's been really cool to see our second graders walk into school with books that they've gotten at the library or the bookstores on Greek myths. So opening up topics that second graders probably wouldn't have had if they hadn't had this ELA curriculum. Third grade is on to astronomy. Fourth grade really loved poetry, and fifth grade, Mr. Trimmer actually dressed as a knight one day when they began the Don Quixote unit. So a lot of fun learning in ELA and bringing all of their skills together. Math has been an area of focus not only for our students here at Hollywood, but our staff. That's some of our PD. We are working on our What I Need time, as I kind of described in October. Our staff have gone through 3 professional development days with our coaches in planning our win time for next school year for our mathematics time. This PD has really opened up the teachers' eyes to just some things in iReady that they didn't really have time to delve into that really is going to also help their core curriculum teaching. So really exciting opportunities for both our staff and our teachers. SEL is always a focus here, but I feel like it's really embedded in everything we do here at Hollywood. Just recently, as we came back from winter break, we know that sometimes that we have to build our community back up after 2 weeks off. The kids kind of get out of their routines, and so they come back and we have to build their classroom communities and also our school community. So we implemented something called compliment bones to go with our Huskies, and students would receive compliment bones if their whole class was caught following our expectations. And the game was that their homeroom teacher could not give the compliment bone. It had to be a different staff member. So it could be a visitor. So if Dr. Ryan Toy was in our building, she could give a compliment bone. But our goal was over the month of January, every class had to receive 30 compliment bones. And if they did, we would take part in the Winter Olympics. So at our February town hall, the students learned that all classes actually went above and beyond 30. They will learn the winning class tomorrow, but they got to see our staff compete in Winter Olympics games in front of them. And then over the past 3 days, we have had classes come in, and Student Council has sponsored Winter Olympics, so they've gotten to take part in that, which was fun. Our SEL challenge now is our kindness challenge. So every day over the announcements, I give a challenge for them. Today was write a nice note for somebody in your class. It doesn't have to be long, but just a nice note of kindness. So always embarking in making sure that we're looking at that SEL component. Winter benchmarking was a huge success here at Hollywood. I think it's something that our staff is really excited for and really proud of our kids. We really focused on goal setting with our students. So one thing that we did for our 2nd through 5th graders was we gave them a bookmark, and it showed what their fall score was and then what the goal was for winter. And then they were able to circle if they met their goal or not. And it was really cool to hear the kids talk about how they met their goal or how they exceeded their goal or how close to their goal they were. And then we talked about how we continue to build on that for the spring. So really bringing in that environment of focusing on their own growth and talking about what these assessments mean and what that shows to us and how that helps our teachers kind of plan their curriculum for the rest of the year. We also focused on just setting protocols to ensure that students had a successful testing environment and that they were prepared for that. So as we move forward, spring is a really busy time. As I'm sitting looking at our calendar, and we had PTA last night, and just kind of going through the calendar from now until the end of the year, it's like, wow, things are going to move fast. So during February, we're going to kick off our One Book, One Hollywood. So we do have that book. We have not announced what that is, but it's going to be a great one. We also are planning for our first Hollywood Cultural Night, which will be in March, so you will receive an invite to that. And then we have a plethora of PTA events. Our PTA is wonderful and provides us great opportunities not only for our students, but also our families. We just had a roller skating night at Fleetwood, which was a lot of fun. So we're very lucky to have that partnership. We're excited too. I'm excited to bring some student presenters in April to the April board meeting where they have a surprise for all of you. I know Dr. Ryan Toy kind of emailed you, so that's kind of a sneak peek as to what they're going to be talking about. And then just kind of for district summer school planning, I am the summer school principal, so just so you know, that is off the ground and running. We've got a great amount of staff who are interested in teaching both the enrichment and skill building, so more information to come, but we are set to begin July 13th and run through August 6th. So I just want to thank the board for your continued support in what you provide to our schools because it really fosters such a great environment. And we look forward to the next half of the year. So thank you so much.
Thank you. So I'm very curious, what kind of games did you play for the Winter Olympics?
So we did speed skating. So
Really?
that was you stood on paper
Okay.
and
Oh,
had to
all right.
race across. We did curling, so bean
Okay,
bags onto
yeah.
the bobsledding, which was quite a hit. We have some fun videos about with that. I mean, some of our teachers were actually practicing in hallways at the end of the school day before. We had ski jump, and then our fifth one was, figure skating. So they had to come up with a little dance routine and figure skate. So lots of fun. And
Yeah.
really all of our staff were part of that, which was fun for the kids to see.
Yeah.
too.
We do a backyard Olympics thing, so it's like a take on. So I was just, as soon as you said it, I was like,
You're
okay,
like, wait a
I need
minute.
ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun,
You
Yeah.
might be able to find some pictures on social media.
Oh, yeah.
right?
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So that brings us to public comment. Do we have public comment tonight?
See if anything, we do not.
No. Okay. I'll read the statement anyway because that's the habit that we're trying to build here. The board welcomes and encourages community engagement at all board meetings. Therefore, time is allocated at the beginning and end of each meeting for audience members to address the board. We kindly ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes. Please note, this is a board meeting in public and not a public forum or a town hall. The board does not directly respond to questions or comments during the meeting, but may ask the superintendent to follow up with you as necessary. We do not have any public comment tonight, so I will move into the agenda. Before we get there, are there any proposed changes to tonight's agenda? Nope. Okay. And we will kick it off with finance, so I'll hand it over to Ms. Claps.
So tonight we have Cesian in to present the audit, and so and then we're also going to walk through the budget timeline. So I'll turn it over to Mark to provide more detail and provide an introduction.
Sure. So you're probably well aware, this is an annual thing, that the district is required to participate in annual an annual audit as well as a budget. And to that end, we have Kevin Smith here to walk you through the most recent audit. It's very lengthy. I think we've gotten pretty good at summarizing the key points, and so if you have any questions, you have a full copy of the audit report in your board book, but with that, I think Kevin will highlight the key points of it.
All right, thanks everyone for having me. I've been out here a few times before, whether it's been at one of the schools or I think last year I did a Zoom presentation. So just like we do each year, come out, just kind of give you guys a quick overview of how things went, go over some of the fund balance numbers, and open it up to any questions. So first of all, feeling going well. things took a little longer just to get some of the information. You guys had some transition, working through that. Compensated absences was a new standard this year too. That required multiple districts to take a little longer. We had to pull a bunch of historical information for that in order to figure out a new accrual. So overall, things went well there. You guys did get a clean opinion. So best opinion you guys can get, unmodified. No management letter. So each year we go through your guys' internal controls, review those, walk through the procedures, make sure there's nothing. You know, we might have some suggestions here or there, but nothing that we thought was missing or needed to change that would warrant a management letter. No significant journal entries. We make journal entries each year for you guys, but that usually has to do with adjusting from cash to accrual. Obviously the government-wide entries that you guys only see with your audit report, things like that. But we are provided all the documentation to do that, so we don't give a comment for journal entries related to that. As far as new standards this year, so like I did mention, compensated absences was new this year. The last few years have been things like the lease standard and Sabitas for the subscription-based items. What happened this year was compensated absences. There were some differences in how people would report it. It was only required to be reported for things that were actually paid out. You guys didn't have that in the past. Now what the new standard required is you have to now accrue for things that are potentially going to be used in the future. So what ended up happening for a lot of districts is a lot of people have a lot of accrued sick time. They're going to use a portion of that over time. A lot of it's going to be saved up to be used for things like additional retirement. However, there is a piece that has to be done for what they are assumed to use. So the way we did that was you pull historical information for a handful of years, see how that's been used over the handful of years, come up with an estimate. That's what the accrual ends up being. So what we're telling everyone right now is it's going to get dialed in a little more over the next few years because obviously we only took 3 years at this point. They suggested 3 to 5. 5 obviously goes with COVID. COVID's kind of weird, so we didn't use those years. So as we get more historical information, that should get dialed in a little more. It may change a little bit, it may fluctuate a little bit, but it should stay fairly standard there. It also isn't any additional money you guys are paying. If you want to think of it as a way, you essentially accelerated salaries. These are salaries you're going to pay in the future anyways. They're just using it as sick time. They're requiring us now to put an accrual on the books for, hey, they've earned this sick time, they can use it in the future. There's an accrual on the books for it now. As far as going forward then, I think we're actually going to get a little bit of a time frame where there's not going to be a significant standard that's going to significantly change your audit report as it has in the last few years. GASB 104 is new next year, but it's just requiring a little more detail in the MD&A, nothing significant. A lot of the details are already there, so I don't foresee any significant changes there. As far as financial highlights then, so page 17 of the report, your guys' total fund balance for the governmental funds ended at about $20 million, which is down about $1.5 million from the prior year. Most of that does come from the capital fund as far as the capital projects you guys spent down this year. General fund ended at about $17 million. And just so you know, the general fund does include your ed fund and your working cash fund. That ended at about $17 million or a little over 7 months of current year expense. Similar range to where it's been in prior years, so no real difference there. O&M's at about $1.14 million, which is at about 3.25 months. That is getting a little bit on the lower end, so something to at least monitor. Based on what you guys budgeted for 26, you are going to spend it down a little more, but there's still plenty there. So no concern, just, it is getting on the lower end, so just to watch that. Debt service is 0, obviously no debt right now, so no reason to have a fund balance there. Transportation funds at about $500K or about 6 months, which is a good spot. IMRF's a little less than $1 million or about 15 months. Again, good spot, not too much there either. Capital projects, like I mentioned, not really a fund that we look at as far as how many months of expense you have in there. You guys go up and down based on your capital projects there. So it's low, but there was a spend down plan. You guys are planning to spend more next year. It's going to be a transfer in there to cover that. So nothing really there. Tort funds at $450K, which is about 2.5 years. Just to kind of review where it's been, it's significantly down from where it was in the past. You guys got up to about 7 years in there, so it's been slowly spent down. It's getting into a better position. 2.5 years is kind of where they're actually saying for operating funds you would have to have a spend down policy. So it's getting into that range where it's in a good spot. Overall, then, like I said, still in good shape. Financial profile score in the AFR is still showing a 4, which is recognition. So you guys are still good there. When you get to government-wide then, so government-wide is when you guys have all your long-term assets, liabilities, that's where all the OPEB liabilities, where the compensated absences thing comes in there. So that is on page 13 of the report. For the current year there, you ended at about 55 million, which was a 1.25 million increase over last year. There's a nice breakdown on page 18 that tells you why that number went up instead of the funds that went down. Main drivers for that, for you guys specifically this year, were fixed assets. So when you guys purchase assets, it's an expense on the funds. When you get to government-wide, it gets shifted up into a fixed asset depreciated over time. Your guys' fixed asset purchases this year were more than depreciation expense, so that increases things. Other items were THIS, so there's no OPEB liability related to THIS. That's been going down for most districts over the last couple of years. They had an agreement for a new plan with Aetna. That's been significantly coming down. People have been seeing that liability come down, so that actually results in an increase on the statement of activities. The other item is all the contributions you make to the pension funds and THIS. Those are all considered reductions in the liability as opposed to an expense like they're on the funds. So those are the main drivers there. Like I said, page 18 gives you a breakdown specifically of each item and how they affected that. As far as footnotes then, the only changes you're going to see from last year are related to compensated absences. So there's a long-term footnote in there now for compensated absences. You guys didn't have one for a few years because you didn't have any long-term debt. So that's back now for compensated absences. And then there's also a footnote describing that compensated absences was implemented. And then also one that's now required, you have to have a separate footnote in there because with compensated absences, you had to make a prior period adjustment. So essentially you had to treat it like that liability was on the books last year, restate the statement of activities. So there's a footnote in there that describes that as well. Other than that, the footnotes are fairly similar to they were in prior years, just updated for current year activity, current year numbers. So with that, those are the things I normally like to hit on. So unless you guys have any specific questions, that's it for me.
Just one from me. I noticed there's a part in there that lays out that the actual versus the budgeted expenses and revenues is off by a significant amount due to the state retirement contributions. Is that like something that's pretty standard? Should we be budgeting for that? Or is it like every year this is basically going to show up as a spread between budgeted and actual?
So it depends. So you can budget for it, but you don't know what that number's going to be. The state determines that number. The state doesn't determine that number before you do your budget. So people that do budget for it, we would usually say you can go off of last year, but it fluctuates up and down like last year, so you could still potentially have it even though you budgeted for it. So some districts just choose not to budget for it and just make the note that, hey, the only reason that this is in there is because we didn't budget for the state retirement contributions. For you guys, it's an in and out. It's a revenue in because the state's supposed to be contributing it, and then it's an expense out because they're contributing to the fund. So from a budget to actual perspective, it's not of any concern necessarily. You're not worried about going over for that, and stating that in the report of like, this is the only reason why is fine. Numerous districts do it that way. Some of them do budget for it. Again, some of them still have it even though they budgeted for it because they budgeted for it based on last year, and then it ends up being a significantly different number from what it was last year, and you still have a problem. Sometimes then your budget is too high because the number goes down and you over budgeted, and so sometimes that covers up other areas. So maybe you overspent somewhere else, and you don't necessarily see that on a total because you had maybe $1 million over budget for the state retirement contribution that ended up being lower. So some people don't like it because of that.
Got it.
So
this is actually a more transparent way to do it.
Because it's truly for what you're spending
Yeah.
compared to what you budgeted for.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And then on page 33, there was a note in there that said that according to the Illinois compiled statutes, it requires the district to utilize the investment services of the township school treasurer. Is that accurate still?
So the exact wording, it's kind of interesting, right? Like we can now leave the treasurer's office through board action, but we also assign a trustee from within our own district if we're gonna, which is all a change. So that's a good point, Selena. I don't know if that's, I'd have to go back and read the exact wording.
So you guys would have to get out and go through the process of getting out.
Yeah, I just
So-
didn't know if it's actually accurate then to say that it's according to the Illinois compiled statutes require it to require us to use the treasurer if that's not actually, if there is not actually a requirement from them.
Yeah, it's no longer a formal requirement, right? There
Right.
would have to be board action to leave.
To leave, right,
Yeah.
correct. So, I mean, it's probably something that could be updated.
Yeah.
But it's still, we've left in most districts just because of the process it needs to go through. So if anything, it would need to change through, to more accurately state that it's through board action.
Yeah.
That because you would have to get approval, you'd have to go through the process similar to like the
course.
other districts that have left.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so it's not something that you could just tomorrow decide that you're not gonna participate.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so there still needs to be something in there noting specifics around, you're in it until you're proved to be out of it, essentially.
Gotcha. Okay. Helpful. That's my only questions. Thanks for coming out. Anyone else?
I just have a comment. Well, two maybe. I mean, honestly, so last time we were here in October, Mark was actually, we were talking about this whole topic, and you kind of gave the warning of like, you've been spending a lot, maybe chill out. Very high level summary of what you were saying. But something that we've been paying attention to. We had some major capital projects that we had been funding for a long time, and that's been a part of the conversation that you've given us every year. So I'm not hearing anything different from that. So I think just it's good to continue to remind us, like, just being cautious. We're kind of getting on some of those lines.
Yeah. I
The
mean, one thing
main-
I will say with that too, though, is you guys have no debt,
Yeah.
which is different from a lot of districts too.
Yeah.
And I will say most districts that don't have debt tend to have lower fund balances because they have less of a cushion because they funded a lot of the capital projects with debt.
Yep.
As opposed to you guys have been paying a lot of stuff out of fund balance.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I remember the torque comment too from a few years ago.
Right.
We were very methodical in trying to bring that down, so I took note of that as you were talking too. And I think kind of to tie that to my main comment that I wanted to make on page, it's 11 as far as your page numbers, but it was the very last paragraph in here. I just sort of wanted to call it out publicly, because most people are not going to read through this thing if I can find it. And I copied it into my notes. The very last paragraph before getting into like all the deep details, District 96 continues to rank among the highest quality school districts and maintains the financial capacity to support comprehensive educational programs and curriculum. Based on current and projected economic conditions, the district is well positioned to sustain and build upon its established tradition of excellence. I appreciate that comment for the recognition of the financial side, but we're always talking about the challenges in this district, and there will always be challenges, but I mean, I think when you look at other districts, we're in a great spot, and there's always opportunity to improve, but we're, just to kind of remind people, we are in a pretty good spot here, and we'll continue to improve, and we'll continue to push things forward, but I just appreciated that comment, just how concise that it was there, and kind of recognizing that, so appreciate that being put in there.
I think it's a great point, and I think, there's another part in here that talks about all of the renovations and maintenance projects that we've done over the years with like 12.3 million at Ames, 6.3 million at Blythe, 8.8 million at Central, 2.5 million at Hollywood, 6.3 million at Hauser, and then purchase of the administration office. And all of those were done without referendum, and it's because we have had a board and an administration that has been financially disciplined over time and has been careful about the way they spend. And so we are in a good financial spot, and I think that it just should be recognized that the pockets, as you said, aren't as deep as they once were, but we're still in a really great position, and we've been, I've only been here for 2.5 years, so I can't really take credit for this, but there's been a lot of financial discipline, and it's been really well managed here over time.
Yeah, and it wasn't in the too far past where it wasn't that. I don't remember where it was, but I read there was a note to 2015, I think it was, or something. There was a period up to 2015 where it was, I'll use the word chaotic, just it was, we've done a lot in the last 10, 11 years to kind of rectify a past situation that wasn't that long ago. So
yep.
a lot of work to get where we are today. So appreciate the commentary in there, and I just wanted to say that publicly because I think just people in general, you tend to remember and you tend to focus on the things that aren't going well, and sometimes it's hard to kind of step back and see all the things that are going well. And we, like I said, we got our problems, and we'll keep pushing forward to correcting them, but we're in a pretty good spot. I think we got a pretty good school district in our hands right now, so, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Anybody else? No? All right, thanks.
Roman, thanks for bringing that up. That was very valid to note that comment.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin?
Want to go ahead, Mark? Or do you have anything to kick off, Selena? For budget
Not
calendar?
More than I already shared. We're going to go through the
Seems pretty
budget
straightforward,
timeline.
so, yeah.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, so your board policy 410 requires the board to actually adopt a budget calendar. And this is pretty similar to what you've done in the past. So we're bringing the calendar to you as a first glance at the committee of the whole. And we'll have that on the board agenda for February 18th for you to approve. We're slated now to have the tentative budget at the July 15th board meeting. You are required then to publish notice that it's on display, which would be done the day after you adopt the tentative budget. You do have to hold at least one budget hearing, which is in your routine done the same night that you adopt the budget. So you open the public hearing, seeing if there are any comments, and then you adopt on the same night. That has been your past protocol. So that would be the August 19th board meeting. And then after that, you can see the budget filing requirements that your CSBO will have to do, both to file the budget and then send an electronic copy to ISB. And that's 30 days after you approve. So that gives that process till September 19th.
Questions? Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
All right,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, and that is it for finance. So we will move to education. Mr. Hunt?
All right, well, tonight we have a mid-year teaching and learning update, which consists of student achievement for the mid-year, updating and showing, demonstrating via graph where we're at in terms of comparison to previous years in other districts. CKLA implementation update, advanced learning interim update, and grades 6 through 8 math resource review. Take it away, Angela.
All right. I am going to actually not start with the mid-year achievement report quite yet. Oh, I am going to start with the mid-year achievement report. Look at that. All right. Good evening, and I'll run through our mid-year achievement report and let you know where we're at as of this winter benchmarking period. So we'll talk about the winter benchmarking, our growth in FastBridge, our growth in achievement in math, and then I'll address some key takeaways that were noted. Just a reminder, we benchmark in January as a formative assessment and a way to progress monitor our students' progress in ELA and math. It's a temperature check to inform our instruction. The assessments that we use include FastBridge for kindergarten through 5th grade, and FastBridge is our assessments that are conducted in math and reading. We use MAP assessment for 2nd through 8th grade for reading and math as well. And then we also look at the iReady diagnostic, which is for kindergarten through 5th grade students, and that is only in math. So when we look at our FastBridge reading growth, because we don't use MAP for our kindergarten and 1st graders, we look at FastBridge as our growth indicator for kindergarten and 1st grade. And so when looking at kindergarten and 1st grade, you can see we look at it through an MTSS lens, our multi-tiered system and support lens. And so we look at how are students doing from tier 1, which is whole group instruction. Kids can access the curriculum at a whole class level, maybe with some small group instruction, maybe with some teacher support, but predominantly in the whole class. Tier 2 being students receive supports in a small group setting. So it might be a reading or math specialist or a teacher with a group of 4 or 5 kids. And then Tier 3 being our most intensive level of support. And so that would be maybe a reading specialist or a math interventionist with maybe 2 kids or maybe 3 kids that are meeting 5 days a week. So The intensity of the tiers is looking at group size, but also looking at how many times a week they meet. And so at the kindergarten level, when we looked from their fall data to their winter data, we had 86% of our kindergartners that continued to receive the same level of support. And that could be students who were tier 3 that stayed at tier 3, or tier 2 stayed at tier 2, and then tier 1 that stayed at tier 1. What's important to note is that the students who were at tier 1 in the fall were were 80% or above of the kindergarten population in our district, which is what you want in MTSS. You want at least 80% of your students to be able to access the core curriculum. So we are doing that. And then we had 10% of the kindergartners who decreased their level of support. So they may have gone from tier 3 to tier 2, or from tier 2 to tier 1. And then we had 6% of our kindergartners who increased the level of support. So think the opposite of that. In first grade, 85% of our students stayed the same level. And in first grade, we had about 90% of our students who were at tier 1. So that's 90% of first graders who were not receiving intervention services in reading. Of the 10% that were, 4% decreased their level of support, and 12% increased their level of support. And that 12% does take a few for tier 1 students who moved to tier 2. One of the things that's important to note with FastBridge, both reading and math, is that the test gets harder in first grade and kindergarten from benchmarking period to benchmarking period. The expectation gets harder. So in the fall, you'll often see more students meet the expectation, and then in the winter, because in the winter the expectation got harder because now they've been in school a little bit longer. So it's not unusual to see an increase in the level of support at kindergarten and first grade, because the expectation and the tests are also changing. In fall for reading, for example, one of the fall assessments is letter identification. That is not one of the assessments then when we get to winter, because the expectation is you should know your letter identification by winter. So now we're going to move to something different, like maybe blending letters. So that, again, it's not unusual to see that increase of 12% in the level of support, because the assessment slightly changed from fall to winter and the expectation changed. It is also important to note that in kindergarten, 10 of the students who were receiving services tier 2 or tier 3 no longer need support. So 10 students in kindergarten are now tier 1. And in first grade, we did have a couple of students who are now tier 1 that were receiving services. So then when we look at MAP for the 2nd through 5th graders, what you see on this chart is the projected growth that MAP provides is the diamond in the bar graphs, and then the bar graph is the actual observed growth. So you can see that all the elementary grade levels met or exceeded their projected growth. And what you see on the chart is that in 2nd grade, our average RIT score moved from the 80th percentile to the 94th percentile from fall to winter. In 3rd grade, we moved from the 92nd to the 94th, and in 4th grade from the 82nd to 93rd percentile, and in 5th grade from the 89th to 91st. So what that means is that at the winter benchmarking period, our median RIT score, our average RIT score, is in the 90th percentile or higher. So our students are, you can see, doing very well.
And those percentiles are not, like, IAR is state-based, right? This is just expectations of
This is
content.
nationally normed.
Nationally normed.
Yes,
Okay.
so MAP looks at students who are at 1 RIT score, how many students they perform higher than or better than nationally. And this is benchmarked off of the 2025 year. So they took, these are the 2025 norms that they used from the 2023 school year. So they do a 5-year study, and then they renorm their numbers based off of that. So these are based off of what they call the 2025 norms that are from their most recent study of all schools that utilize MAP nationally.
How is it that, like, it seems unusual that a district would jump from the 80th achievement percentile to the 94th achievement percentile in the gap of like 3 months? Is it
It's actually
when does that
not
happen?
unusual for second grade. If that
Okay.
was a number at 6th or 7th or 8th grade, that would be very unusual.
Right.
It's not unusual for second graders because in the fall, it's the first time they're taking an assessment on the computer. It's the first time they're taking an adaptive assessment. So even when we look at MTSS services in the fall, we don't use for second grade MAP as the primary identifier for MTSS because we know that there's some fluctuation in that. And then in that winter assessment, they're more attuned to it. They've done it once now. So the winter assessment for second grade is a little bit more reliable than that fall assessment.
Gotcha. Okay.
So these are the same, it's the same scenario for 6th or 8th grade. Again, you can see that all the grade levels exceeded their projected growth. And then you can see where we went, how each grade level in reading for 6th or 8th increased in their average achievement percentile as well, from the 87th to the 88th, the 96th to the 97th, 95th to 97th. This is where you would expect to see a smaller change because as students get older, it gets harder for them to have those large jumps that we noticed at second grade. You can also see that students who went, like the average percentile went from the 96th to the 97th at 7th grade, but the RIT score increased 3.4 RIT points. So it looks like 1 percentile, and that may for some people not be a lot, but it is 3 RIT points, and that is significant. So then when we look at FastBridge Math, looking again at kindergarten through 1st grade, 89% of the students received the same level of support, 8% decreased, and 3% increased their level of support. In 1st grade, 85% received the same level of support from fall to winter, 4% decreasing and 5% increasing. And in kindergarten, 96% of our students are accessing the Tier 1 curriculum. So that 8% is 8% of 4% of all the kindergartners in our school district. And then at 1st grade, 92% of our 1st graders are accessing the curriculum at a Tier 1 level. So as we know, we are a high achieving district. This data just continues to support that. We had 7 kindergartners who no longer need MTSS support at the winter benchmarking time, and we had 12 1st graders who no longer need math support at the winter benchmarking time. Here is our MAP data for 2nd through 5th grade. And again, everybody met or exceeded, every grade met or exceeded their projected growth. We have that jump from 76th percentile for the average RIT to the 90th percentile, and it's the same situation again. Fall, 2nd grade, you're going to see something lower, but then you see it kind of level off then at 2nd grade. 3rd grade, they moved from the 87th percentile to the 95th percentile. 4th grade, the 90th to the 95th, and 5th from the 91st to the 94th. And then looking at 6th through 8th, all of our middle schoolers also exceeded their projected growth, with the percentiles going from the 96th to the 94th in 6th grade, the 96th to the 95th in 7th grade, and the 82nd to the 90th. So when you look at just the percentile, you think, why did they decrease? What's going on? How do we handle that? And again, 90th and above percentiles are great. So it's not that it's a bad thing. But the other thing to look at is what that RIT score was. So at the 96th percentile in fall, it was a 223.2. In winter, 228.8 is a 94th percentile. So our RIT score, we're still increasing. And you can see that for 7th grade as well. We are still increasing in score. It's just that that number in the winter with the national norms shows it's better than 94% of the students who are nationally normed.
Can you do the comment you made on with reading the RIT score? So the 223 to the 228 is significant. Mm-hmm. So like, can you help me understand how to comprehend that? Like what level of significance is that?
What do you mean, what level of significance?
So we went from 223 to 228, but we fell in the percentile. So how should I be thinking about this? Like, that feels good. Like, I'm not concerned about it, but I feel like I sort of ask these questions every year because I kind of forget when we
It's okay.
come back to it. But like, going from a 223 to a 228.
It's still good.
Yeah, and so like, how should I think about that as being significant? Is there like a layman's way of saying like, is it just the percentage increase? Is it 5 point, like, is each point worth something or just? No?
That's a great question that I'd like to explore just a little bit deeper on how to answer
Okay.
and not answer off the cuff. But that is a good question, and I will explore that and get back to you on that.
Because the whole concept of this makes sense to me, but when I get into the granularity of it, I kind of lose myself sometimes.
I guess one way I sort of look at it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sort of looking at it like the drop also might be that the national averages also went up as well,
Yeah.
and therefore, when we compare ourselves to the national average, we drop a little bit.
Yeah. 'cause
That
I-
is, yes, that's true. Is that layman's
I-
terms enough, or do you want me
I
to
think
still
so.
kind of dig a little bit more?
Well, because with the RIT, we can come back to this later if it, I don't need to dwell on it too much. I just, the RIT score itself, I think I still struggle with like the meaningfulness of it. Like, what is it actually telling me?
The RIT score is kind of like shoe sizes. So it doesn't matter how old you are, or who you are, or where you come from. What they always say is a RIT is a RIT is a RIT. So
Okay.
I can be a second grader and get a 223, and that's the same as a sixth grader who got a 223, but that means that that second grader is performing really high.
Okay.
So whatever that ROSH unit is what RIT stands for. That ROSH unit is just consistent across the board, regardless of what grade or how old you are when you take the assessment.
So that's like the standard.
Yes.
Okay. So the RIT is the standard, and then the percentile is what percentile our students meet that standard. And so for
Right.
the most part, they're in the 94th percentile overall.
Correct.
For the standard.
Right.
So when I look at 7th being at 232 in fall and 229 for 8th, that means the 7th graders were performing slightly higher on the standard
average,
than
yep.
the 8th. Okay. That's what I was
That's
getting
actually a
at.
good observation.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then if between fall and winter, when the RIT score increases, it's still showing improvement.
Correct.
It's just that then the percentile compares that improvement to the national average
Correct.
or
It compares
just the
that
score.
RIT. It takes that RIT score and it says at this number, where does this fall out of all the students who took the test? And it's better than 95% of the kids who take the test nationally.
Okay.
At that time of year.
And so if we were in the 100th percentile, would that, whatever that RIT number is, would that say that every student is meeting that standard or are at a higher level
It
than the
would
rest of
say
the
our
country?
average
Average.
RIT scores. So taking all of our
Okay.
7th graders and figuring out the average RIT score, that score is better than 99% of the students who took the assessment nationally at that time of year.
Because you're always going to have people overperforming and slightly underperforming whatever that benchmark is. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. That's what I was trying to get at. Okay.
Okay.
So I do sort of something Selena said on the last slide, but we're looking at the 8th grade. There was a
Sorry.
the 8th grade. There was a major. Well, not major, significant jump from like 82nd to 90th, and the RIT score seemed to jump pretty significantly as well.
That's actually something, so I'll talk about it in a second about how we're meeting for advanced learning tomorrow. And when I was doing a preliminary data review with the consultants who are coming tomorrow to work with the team, one of the things they noticed is some of our fall scores do look lower. And so we're going to talk about that as an advanced learning team, and I can actually come back and talk more about like that kind of situation once we meet tomorrow.
All right.
Because that's something that they've noticed when looking at our data, 2nd through 8th grade is actually consistent for many grade levels, that we are performing a little bit lower than you would expect in the fall based off of where they come from in the spring. And what they were explaining to me, and they'll talk about tomorrow with the advanced learning team, is that yes, there's such thing as summer slide, but the RIT score differences don't indicate summer slide. And so that's a conversation we're going to have.
And so generally speaking, would my general expectation be that the 223 goes to 228 and then the 232 to the 236 and then that 8th grade number should theoretically be higher than 236? Like if you're continuing to build,
Oh, I see what you're saying. I mean, that's
generally
reasonable.
speaking, yeah.
Yeah, but not always
a
what
full
would happen.
expectation,
Right,
but like
right.
generally speaking, that's
Because-
kind of what you would.
Also remember it's the average, right? So you could have outliers that pull it down
Okay.
or even bring it up
Okay.
because it is an average.
Okay. So we don't norm. Okay. It's a straight average. Okay.
So some key takeaways from our midterm benchmarking data. We have strong achievement, as you can see, across all our grades in both reading and math. Elementary literacy, elementary literacy remains a district strength. We have strong math performance in all our grade levels, and we're showing effective early intervention systems and MTSS support practices when you see students decreasing in their level of support. Our middle school students are continuing to perform well above our national averages. But you know there's always ways that we can improve. Nobody is perfect. And so we just want to continue monitoring, because remember at the beginning I did say that this benchmarking period is about informing instruction, and it's a temperature check. So we want to continue monitoring, because we see when I dig deeper into the data, what I see is that 54 to 68% of our middle school students are meeting their projected growth. So yes, when you look at those bar charts, on average, the grade levels are meeting their or exceeding their projected growth. But when you dig deeper into individual students, we do have students that are not meeting their projected growth. And so that's something we want to continue monitoring and looking, because some students may be starting high and thus they have a more challenging growth target, or we might just need to make instructional adjustments to help accelerate growth for our already high-performing students. And then there were some growth percentage dips in 5th grade reading and 6th and 7th math, so we want to continue digging into that. And that may warrant closer instructional review, like what we're teaching, how we're teaching, to ensure all our learners, especially those that, again, are performing at high levels, continue to experience appropriate challenge and meaningful growth. And that is also part of what our conversation will be tomorrow at our advanced learning meeting. So are there any other questions about the data before I update you on some other teaching and learning pieces?
Do you get sub-demographics on this stuff?
I do.
Okay.
And I do dig into that, like behind the scenes, but
Yeah.
don't obviously publish
Yeah,
it
yeah.
all. And that's something that I can provide if you'd like to start seeing that too.
We've just been talking about trying to get more ingrained in that to make sure all of our populations are getting what they need. So I wasn't sure if this was the same as IAR, because I know the state's very clear about
Yes.
it. I just wasn't sure if that, I figured it did, but I just wasn't sure. So, okay.
And if that's something that you would like me to start reporting on, both IAR and MAP, we can do that, so that we are watching in a public lens as well, and not just something that I observe and work with the building leaders on.
I mean, I'd be curious if others would be curious about it, but I mean, are you seeing anything that stands out where we need
Nothing
to put
outside
focus?
of what you would normally expect.
Okay.
All right. So then just a few other teaching and learning updates. I want to update you on the CKLA implementation and let you know what we've been working on. We've been having what are called learning labs, which is where a classroom teacher volunteers to work with our CKLA consultant. The consultant meets with them for about an hour and a half, usually about a week before they're going to teach the lesson. They plan the lesson together, and then they talk about how they'll co-teach, or if the consultant will take half a lesson and the teacher will take the other half when they have half of a grade level come observe. We've done this for 1st grade, 2nd grade, 4th and 5th. We're actually in the middle of 4th grade now. This Friday we'll do the other half of 4th grade. We did half of them last week. We'll do the other half this week. And 3rd grade is going to do their planning session in a week or two, and then we'll go in and observe. When we get together, we debrief about that planning process so that we're helping the teachers better understand how the planning works in our 2nd year of CKLA, pointing out different resources that they may not have known about, because there are a plethora of resources in CKLA. And then we talk about what they'll end up observing. For instance, in our most recent 4th grade class, they ended up observing some morphology lessons, as well as some reading of a story that they're reading about in that class. And then we come back together after the observation and discuss what we saw, how students were engaged in the different instructional strategies we have, and answer questions. Chris, the consultant, will answer questions then for the staff members about the planning, the teaching, and then we go into talking about scope and sequence, pacing, and making sure everyone's feeling comfortable with where they're at with CKLA. When looking at the data from the surveys from these sessions, so far 17 of our staff members have responded to the survey. And from that, 100% of them have felt that the session has made an impact on their professional growth or their student growth. And 11 out of 17 of them have said it has deepened their knowledge in the subject area. And 14 out of 17 of the responses have said it will lead to an improved learning for their students. And so after every session with half a team, everybody gets a link and they're able to take the survey if they choose. And so that's how we got those 17 people. And one person did leave a comment that said they enjoyed working with the facilitator and the coaches, because the instructional coaches attend all the sessions as well. So it does seem to have been a positive situation. And like I said, we'll continue it on Friday with 4th grade and then move into 3rd grade and wrap up then with kindergarten. For advanced learning, the Advanced Learning Committee met in the fall. We met in September and we met in October. And in the fall, we identified 3 priorities for this year's work. We want to define what advanced learning in Riverside District 96 looks like, improve program transparency and communication, and refine the identification process for services. We also talked about that we're currently having challenges with the way we provide services for 4th and 5th grade ELA, given the CKLA curriculum. And so that's become an area that we want to address as well this year. We have a full day working session tomorrow with the consultants from the Northwest Center for Talent and Development. And at tomorrow's meeting, we will be meeting from 8 to 3 with a lunch break in there, but we're going to review the advanced learning data for our district. So looking at who are the students in advanced learning, what are their, what got them into advanced learning, how are they performing now on the different assessments that we give from MAP, IAR, COGAT, as well as MAP, IAR, COGAT. I feel like I'm missing something. But looking at all the assessments we give and how they align to who's in advanced learning, who's been identified for advanced learning and receiving services. And when I review that data, part of the discussion will also be who are the students that have similar profiles but aren't in advanced learning, so that we can see what students are we missing and why are we missing them, and how will that then play a role in our program identification and redefinition. We'll also talk about service delivery models tomorrow, especially as it relates to elementary ELA. And then we're also going to talk tomorrow about student identification. So we have a heavy agenda, but we have big expectations. At the end of that meeting, we'll work through a timeline of what the next steps are. And we have 4 scheduled meetings, not to say we won't add any, but we have a meeting scheduled for the end of February, end of March, April, and May. And the goal of the committee is to address those priorities, which again is to show what advanced learning is in District 96, so that's talking about who's receiving services, improving our transparency and communication, so how are we communicating out to families and staff members, and then refining the identification service with the goal of being able to use it for the upcoming school year. And then finally, the Hauser administration, Chris Harvalis and Katie Casa and I have been working with the math teachers at Hauser to continue to evaluate whether Carnegie Learning is truly meeting our needs. Over the course that we've had Carnegie Learning, we have updated the resource when they come up with updates. We've added different pieces as teachers have seen fit, and we've taken away pieces that teachers feel they don't really use. But what we are looking at now is just, is there really long-term alignment still with Carnegie Learning, because we've been using it for quite a while. And so we do continue to ask that question, but this year, we decided that we wanted to explore if there might be something that might better meet the needs. And so during the fall, we had 5 different vendors present to the math teachers. And from that, it led to identifying one resource that the teachers wanted to explore for a little bit deeper, and that's called EdGems Math. The teachers went and observed EdGems in instruction at Hinsdale Middle School, and also talked with the teachers and the curriculum director and the principal there to see how it's working with implementation in Hinsdale. And now they are all utilizing a unit in EdGems to see how students are responding to it. So even today, I was in a 7th grade class, and they were looking at order of operations, and the feedback from a couple of 7th graders that were in the math class was that they actually like it better. They feel it's a little bit more organized. They feel that they are a little bit more engaged. One student was happy it's not in a book. I did let him know if we choose to purchase it, it's going to be in a book again. But that's just a couple of kids I talked to. As we go through this process, if it's something the teachers continue to enjoy, we did have a teacher who is having their evaluation, the formal evaluation coming up, and during their pre-observation meeting with Ms. Caesa, they were raving about how exciting it is for them too. So if it is something that we continue to proceed with, we will get more student feedback than just me observing it, doing an informal walkthrough in a classroom and talking to 2 random kids. If it is something that after each grade level looks at a unit, it's something that they want to continue to explore, Chris, Katie, and I are looking at the possibility of a year-long pilot next school year. So we would take the spring to provide professional development on the resource and then pilot the resource for the full year. And then we'd make a final recommendation comparing that pilot resource with Carnegie to make a decision on if we would continue with Carnegie or if we might switch to EdGEMS Math. And that would be brought forward in the spring of 2027. So with that, that's teaching and learning right now. Are there any questions for me?
So with advanced learning, this isn't really like done, right? Because it's not a curriculum.
Correct.
It's just pushing kids into more advanced stuff. And so I think I heard you say by the end of this year, all this stuff will be done so that we have it. So is that kind of the end point of this?
No,
Okay.
it won't be. It's something that would continue on, and whoever wants to continue on the committee would be able to continue. If new people want to join, that's open too. But it's not just a one and done year type thing,
Okay.
Because we need to then review how's the new identification process working.
Okay.
And we also want to continue to look at how our program delivery of services, and do we need to look at more FTE, or is there a different way we want to service students? So it's a continuous conversation, but there are just certain things that we know need to be addressed sooner rather than later. And those two big things are how we identify students, because the team will see tomorrow some gaps in student profiles. And then also we need to look at how we're providing services at the elementary level for ELA, because it's been a challenge with the new CKLA curriculum. And that challenge is ELA right now is 180 minutes a week. For some schools, that's 2 90-minute blocks that kids are pulled out of core instruction, or it's 3 60-minute blocks a week that kids are pulled out of core instruction depending on the school they're in. So if you think about at schools that have the 2 90-minute blocks, that's 2 full days of ELA instruction they're missing because the blocks are 90 minutes. So they've missed all the core instruction when they get pulled out for advanced learning. And when we had Ready Gen, that worked. But now with CKLA, they're missing core pieces of the Tier 1 instruction. And it's been a challenge for both the classroom teacher trying to figure out how not to pile on to kids because you're in advanced learning, but then for the advanced learning teachers because they want to continue to challenge the students, but then their hands feel a little bit tied too because they know their students are missing work as well. So that's something that we truly need to address.
I think from, oh,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
go
No, go
ahead.
ahead.
You know, like, last year we spent, we did the surveys and we engaged with the consultants to review our advanced learning program. And so, like, for you to say this year what we need to do is one of our priorities is what does the advanced learning program look like? Like, to me, that, like, check, we should have already done that, right? And so I think too, some of what I'm hearing from our community, especially as last year we engaged with our community and we had a bunch of parents say what their experience had been and did sort of like these working sessions or I don't know what you called them, but like a lot of parents are like, well, when are we going to see action here, right? Like, and I think too, this sort of feeds back into, the Educational Leadership Solutions survey that was presented to us in December as the board. Like, one of the things that was highlighted there is that the academic challenge and rigor need to improve and become more consistent. Students rate rigor and engagement the lowest across the 5 essential student metrics. Parents are repeatedly asking for more challenge and clearer expectations. And I'm sort of hearing that from my community as well, is that people feel like their kids need to be more challenged. And so I love that we're sort of at a point where we can prioritize this and would just encourage, if there need to be more resources that we need to apply to make sure that our students are at all levels being challenged and that, we're identifying enough students that are capable of being challenged. I think that we, it's a good time to focus here because it seems like the surveys are telling us that, my community is telling us that.
The data is telling us that too. Like
Right.
that's what the mid-year data was saying also, that we have high-performing students that we aren't challenging enough. And that will be part of the conversation tomorrow when we look at how are we identifying students, because we're clearly also missing kids then in some areas, and so that's where that's at. I do want to, a couple of things to what you said. One, I know the teachers feel that it feels like there hasn't been a lot of action also, but it's coming, and I feel like it's going to come faster now than it has leading up to this point in the year. And those priorities we identified came from the work with the consultants and the surveys. And so we looked at the data from the surveys, and that's where they had, I think, 9 to 12 different suggestions. And so we looked at that in September and October and talked about, of these suggestions, which ones do we need to address? And so that defining what advanced learning looks like is more about, like, who's in advanced learning. I know one of the concerns is also, we talk about advanced learning being part of the diamond of MTSS, but we really truly don't have a way to meet those true tier 3 enrichment students. And so that's one of the things when we talk about what does advanced learning look like, it's how are we identifying and meeting tier 2 but also tier 3 needs, and that's where some of the gaps are too. So I understand what the community concern is, and I think the teachers also echo some of that concern. But we are still moving forward. It just feels like we're going slow to go fast.
Okay. Once there is like the evaluation of students and sort of looking at who's getting into this program, what their success has been relative to those who haven't made it in the program, you did mention that there's like also a need to look at the curriculum. Are we talking about like next year there could even be new curriculum for the advanced learning group, or is that sort of something further down the path?
That's a part I'm not sure on, because I want to work with the team and especially the advanced learning teachers on if it's a new curriculum or if it's different resources for them, or if it's utilizing CKLA but getting training to utilize it in a different way for them. It also depends on how we utilize the continuum of service, but like what services we provide, because again, we want to look at how can we stop pulling from core for 2/5 of the week versus having so looking at how it's delivered as well. So I don't know if it's resources or time, and that's part of all of that conversation tomorrow too. And I'll come back to the board table with an update from this full day meeting so that you guys are being updated regularly on our progress as well.
Yeah, I think I can appreciate the move slow to go fast, absolutely. But that's the same sentiment that I have is like, I went back through my notes and we were, I don't remember where we were, but we were talking about this in October of last year, of 24, which means I think we probably contracted with Northwestern before that. So I mean, it just, or maybe not. But I went back and looked at some of the notes. We kicked off the team in October 24th of 2024. At least that was part of the slide deck that you presented. So it does feel like it's taking a long time, and so I can appreciate the slowness, or moving slow to get it right. But that's why I was also wondering, is there really ever an end point either? So we're doing our evaluation, we're figuring out the most important things to tackle first, but then it's a continuing evolution to constantly assess this, because it's not just a curriculum. It's
Exactly.
how are we embedding it? How are we focusing on the students that need it, or supporting them, all that too. Okay. So by the end of, I
But
think
you'll
what I heard,
see tangible pieces before the end of the school year.
yeah, okay.
So yes, it's a continuous process. Yes, there's some of the conversations around it, but you'll see
the foundational
tangible
stuff
pieces.
will be done. Yeah,
Right.
okay. And then it'll
Before
just
the end of the
be
year.
keep executing, analyzing, and evolving from that point forward. Do we need to continue paying Northwestern for these?
For now,
services?
yes.
Okay.
Let's look at where we're at the end of this year and maybe not next year.
Okay. I don't remember how we set that contract up. Is it just hourly services?
Yes.
Or what? Yeah, okay. All right.
But the data analysis that they're going to provide tomorrow, I wouldn't have been able to do. So it truly is a resource right now, and they also have knowledge of different ways to service students, as well as things that have worked in other districts that they've seen, research they've done. So right now, they're a good resource for us. But again, depending on where we're at the end of this year, we may not need them to go forward for the reflecting and refining.
Okay.
Any other teaching and learning questions? All right, thank
Thank you.
you.
Thanks.
All right. That moves us into personnel. So Mr. Persani, hand it over to you.
Sure, so I'm gonna send this over to Martha for regarding goals for 3. So, and then I'll talk about the timeline.
I'll just be brief. I'm finding that it's helpful, I think, if we bring the action team agendas to all of you under committee reports as a way just to understand where our different action teams and processes are moving forward. So, as you recall, I started as the Goal 3 action team leader this year with Don Tofano's retirement from last year. And so you have the agenda from our January 14th meeting, and one of the areas that the Goal 3 action team has kind of shifted to, and I think it's been part of a board interesting goal as well, is just to use the morale survey in more meaningful ways to look at action steps. As you know, we revised, or using a revised tool from EAB on a morale survey, which actually pulls out sort of district level morale responses as a separate area to consider, which is, I think, interesting and helpful to this committee. So again, looking at that morale survey, we've talked before in the past, recognition and value and visibility and communication from the district office continues to be areas for us to continue to focus on and grow. This action team is also really interested in the work of action teams specifically and coming up with some kind of standardized process or template that all committees would use, and then also a better way to communicate out the work that is happening in action teams. And we've done that in different ways, but looking to unify and solidify that a bit more. So it was good conversation. The group meets again February 10th, I believe. Our next morale survey will be administered at the February 13th Institute Day, so we'll have another kind of mid-year opportunity for the board. I'll anticipate either probably March Cow. We would bring it back, assuming we get our results and are able to organize them and make sense of them to bring it to all of you as a summary level data. So I'm enjoying working with this group. A lot of really dedicated people that are very focused on just how do we continue to make sure that this is a great place, not just for our kids, but a great place to work, and that our staff feel satisfied and connected and their own sense of belonging and being able to participate in doing meaningful work. So that's my overview.
So, as many of you probably already know, we started the search for the superintendent. We don't have any candidates. This is a marathon. This is not a race, but a marathon. So we have started. We've already got some proposals in, actually, from pretty much the 5 vendors that would help us with the search. I'm going through those right now. We're going to narrow it down to possibly 2 or 3 who will then come to make a presentation here. So the goal for that is we're looking to do that somewhere in the March-April timeframe for their presentations, after which around May we'll probably contract with them, identify a firm and contract with them. They'll then start doing their work over the summer. And then in September timeframe, we'll post, the position should be posted, and then we will start the interview process in November and December, and then offer a contract out around like December, January timeframe. So that's like very high level of that. Obviously, there's not like firm dates, but probably, like I said, probably in the March, like sometime in March, we hope to have like presentations, at least start the presentations. Any questions?
Did you say we're going to boil that? I'm sorry. Did you say we're going to boil that down to like 2 or 3?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm wondering, do we have any notes from previous search firms that we've engaged, or previous superintendent searches? Anything that might be useful that was noted down? And I know that predates both of us. So.
Yeah, that's we actually did ask that, and I don't think there was really much that we could find regarding that.
Yeah, it's a good question. So the search firm that worked with the board at the time that I was hired was kind of a uniquely self-created, very District 96 specific. It was the retired superintendent from several times ago, David Bennett, who ran that along with a man named Dennis Kelly, who was also a retired superintendent and had been, I believe he still does, has grandchildren in this district. So they were both very invested in District 96 specifically, but they weren't doing searches beyond District 96. I would guess there's files or something somewhere if we dig a little bit. Kathy, you and I can do some digging on that.
Well, it might be an interesting contrast with 2 superintendent searches ago as well.
Yeah, and I think, right, I was going to say, I think when Bob and Sharma Lewis was hired, there was a search firm involved.
Yeah, I believe
think
there
it
was.
EWP, but we can double check on that.
I think too, like, Hinsdale just hired a new superintendent. I think Oak Park is in the middle of a superintendent search. I suppose District 95 just went through a superintendent search not that long ago and maybe utilized a consultant. So we have neighbors who have just gone through this, and they probably have a really good sense for what the market is. And, you know, we could even observe their process a bit and talk to them about these different consultants if, like.
Is IASB one of the 5?
They are.
Okay.
I mean, there's really only 5 out there.
Is there?
Then you have like the one that brought, like Martha, and it was like sort of, there are the ones like, I don't call them mom and pop shops, but we decided to basically focus on the major ones for the search, so.
So I think the IASB search firm, when I attended their session at the conference earlier last year, I guess, they seemed to talk up quite a bit how the fees are greatly reduced given their position, and that we're already paying into to IASB for other things, and that benefits us on the other side. That said, I honestly couldn't say what their work would be. I know, Leslie, I appreciate you sending out that link to the recent. I think IASB was the search firm that ran that the interview process or public interview process. I'm on the fence in terms of how that was conducted. I guess I'm not sure. There was good points and bad points to it.
Yeah, I don't know how they facilitated it, but I think probably something for us to talk about.
Right,
And like,
no.
I think
Yeah.
that's the main part about the interview, right? Is like, what is your process? How do you find candidates? I don't know. You know more than that.
Yeah.
You filled me in, so you can you take that one.
So, I mean, I guess the thing is, no, those are very valid questions. And like I said, right now we have proposals. I'm going through them. I really don't want to bring 5 proposals here unless people want 5 proposals, but I figure.
I would highly recommend we do 2 or 3.
Yeah. So I was going to distill it down to like 2 or 3, bring them here, have them do presentations, and that's when we could ask those type of questions.
I would say probably at least 3, not 2. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I think I say 2 or 3 because if there's 2 that clearly stand out from the other 3 for whatever reason,
Okay.
I don't.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I'm walking into. So
Sure, sure.
But yeah, I don't think we need 5.
Right.
That's a lot. And we should really just kind of, I think what Dave and I kind of talked about with Mark as well is we kind of need to figure out what some of our core tenants are and just screen a couple out based on those things. So I think we can eliminate at least 2 of them.
Yeah, no.
And bring 3 forward, and we'll kind of go from there. And then if we're stuck on,
Right. I mean, I haven't gone through them all in detail, but there's like one that I can already just eliminate. But so.
yeah. So if we get stuck on one, maybe we bring the 3. If we're, or we can reach out to just to kind of see what people are thinking as well. But yeah, that you said. So we'll have that screened out by May,
I
right?
do like Selena's idea, though, if nothing else, if we can, on a sheet, figure out for the districts that are around us, what firms they used.
Yeah.
Is there anything that's showing, or if they're firms that are showing up repeatedly, or is it really just kind of spread all over the place?
No, and that's something good, but I guess the thing is that I'd like us to focus on, because we need to what Wesley was saying, we need to figure out what's important to us, what are we looking for in a search firm, and then also then obviously a candidate as well. But that's what we have to sort of distill down that.
I did find myself watching a school board meeting of another district when they were presenting on, they had brought in consultants to present. So because all of this is recorded and online, it is very easy to find presentations by these people who have presented for other districts, and
It's not a bad idea to watch them.
Yeah.
If you got the time. it's
Yeah,
not a
you
bad
want
idea to watch 'em.
if you want to save some time, that's a good way to see it.
Yeah.
Or just, preview it.
All right. Any other questions? Back to you,
Alright.
Wesley.
Okay. So that brings us to facilities, I think, right? Yep, facilities, Mr. Olick.
It was a light agenda. I think the big things that we voted on already is Blythe Park Playground. It's happening this summer, and the Hauser windows voted on also. It's happening this summer. The 2 big things we talked about. don't think there's anything else really big. Security, the camera updates, it's going well.
What was the bids update for the playground equipment?
This is from the January 15th meeting, so that was for the bid that you then approved. At the
We already approved it,
January.
yeah.
Oh, I didn't even pay attention to the date up there.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I think there was a note that I saw, or maybe you and I were talking about it, the village is waiving all the fees and all that kind of stuff. So just call that out. Continuing to work
is that
closely with the
finalized,
village.
Mark?
Oh, there, I thought that was. Okay, my bad. I take that back. I retract that statement. We're talking about that. So, okay. I would greatly appreciate that in the spirit of collaboration between our governmental units. It's all the same taxpayer money. Okay. All right.
So for that playground equipment, is there, I assume we're giving ourselves enough lead time for however long it takes to fabricate this as part of the bid process?
You know, Mark just had an update this week, right? You talked to DLA this week.
Yeah, I think as you know, the playground equipment was not part of the larger bid. It's a separate bid that has come in through a cooperative approach. So that number came in the beginning of the week. And I think the intent was for Martha and I to walk through those with DLA, which I was able to do a little bit yesterday. Haven't had a chance to fill Martha in on that conversation, but then formally bring that bid to you for approval. And I do believe we have plenty of lead time at this point for that. But it's something we should be working through over the next 3 to 4 weeks, not the next 3 to 4 months, to bring it to you.
So if it's a cooperative bid, then that might just be the only bid we see then, or?
Yeah, so the cooperative, what you have done on other playgrounds, for example, when Hollywood had to replace some equipment, perhaps that was due to damage, I don't know why damage, but you went through a cooperative method, which essentially is a state omni-cooperative, which allows districts to adhere to the public bidding requirements while getting one bid through the cooperative who have already vetted vendors that are very specific, like school lockers, school playground equipment, vehicles, things like that. So it allows you to, one, expedite the process, and two, pretty much be assured that you are getting the lowest bid without taking the time and the money to do bid specs and go to a larger bid like you might have done with the Hauser windows recently and the playground site work recently. So that just came in, just saw the numbers. They're incredibly favorable. I think the question is, I see a quote with names on it, and I don't know what that apparatus really looks like.
Yeah.
So I think, like I said, it was early on Monday when we got the quote in. It came to Martha. We talked briefly. I followed up with DLA yesterday afternoon. I haven't even had a chance to circle back with Martha on that. But I certainly see that coming potentially as early as February, or the COW meeting in March, with approval in March.
Right, we could make COW a special meeting if we needed to take action in early March, if we need time
Yeah.
beyond the February board meeting.
But that's the gist of the cooperative. And I think, as I learned from Ryan, when you did playgrounds as part of the larger construction projects, then it was all put into a singular bid package at that point. So you were getting competitive bids because you were also getting bids on, the expansion and renovations at your other buildings. But when it came to individual playgrounds by themselves, you just used the cooperative.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Move on. Stephanie's not here. So I guess I'll just.
We have family engagement
Yeah.
ahead of that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am sorry. I am sorry. I didn't have my agenda in front of me. I felt like I was missing something. I apologize. Family Engagement Committee, Ms. Kalick.
Oh, thanks. So, Family Community Partnerships met on January 20th. We talked a little bit about some upcoming, one upcoming parent information session that's being put on at Hauser, kind of intended for Hauser parents. That's happening on February 9th at 7.
Monday.
Yes, Monday. With Buddy's Place in the Loft, and it's called Let's Not Be Silent, and it's a parent workshop on teen grief, and that was part of the Hauser social work team also bringing that on. And then I'll talk, because I have it in my notes from parent leadership team, but some other ideas of parent information sessions as well. We talked a lot about Family Community Partnerships about the Family Learning Night coming up on February 25th, which is a Thursday, I want to say. And it's Family Math Night, which sounds like it's going to be amazing. The purpose of Family Math Night is to give, of course, kids opportunities to play fun games to help reinforce the concepts that they're learning in the classroom, but also to kind of help parents see through demonstration how kids are learning these same concepts in the classroom. So there's going to be options for people to take games home and other supplemental learning opportunities. There's going to be information sessions in the library. And one in particular will be provided in Spanish. It sounds really cool. So I know that Molly sent out the flyers for it. And so I sent it out in my PTA newsletter for Hollywood. So I think everybody's kind of starting to send those out. I think I saw it. It's already up on the website as well. So come, bring your kids.
That's just that's a K-5 thing, right? Not a 6-8
Yes.
thing? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, good point. Yes, it's K-5. And it's divided by like pre-K, kindergarten and first, and then 2, 3, 4, and 5, and up. I mean, I fully intend to bring my 7th grader. Just
I think there's some middle school kids coming to help out.
yeah,
Oh, that's a good
yeah.
idea.
Maybe guide their younger siblings, but yeah, it'll be more focused on the K through 5 math. We talked about the strategic plan and kind of the plan for the strategic plan coming up. And we looked at the parent, that was when we looked at the parent survey, the draft of the parent survey, right?
Yes.
And so I think the only suggestion was to maybe include how long it would take to complete for folks, but we're going to plan to send it out mid-February because it will come out at the same time as 5 Essentials, but this is going to help guide our strategic plan a lot. 5 Essentials is also important, so we'll try to push that too, but I think is the plan still to have a station for families to do the survey at Family Math Night?
We're looking into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But otherwise, maybe the schools can try to figure ways to get that out. And then our next meeting is March 12th. And then PLT, we had a cold day on Friday the 23rd on Zoom while our kids were e-learning. It was so fun. We talked a little bit about the school calendar and kind of tried to get the word out about the half days that were there for professional development are not counting against the school days. That came up again last night in our PTA meeting. Just because the calendar is like later, and so everybody's kind of acknowledging that. We are thinking that the Parks and Rec are going to put out a survey about parents' interest in having their kids utilize like aftercare for those half days to try to just see like how much they'll need. So we'll make sure we get those out as well.
And I'll just interrupt. I'm meeting with them this Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Tomorrow. No, not next Thursday. I'm sorry.
Okay.
To just really start with the planning, and the tricky part is just having some sense of numbers. We just don't know how many kids will opt to stay.
Yeah.
But we have different ways we're talking about, as Marla mentioned, to try to figure that out.
And I think the PTA leaders are probably the good people to try to get word out to people. So if like something needs to go out fast, I know that's pretty easy for PTA people. We talked about the family math night, family learning night. Then also Martha, you talked about a couple of other parent information night ideas. With
Yeah,
Doug
and since
Bolton. Do you
we've,
wanna
since
talk
then
about
we've
that?
confirmed, we're gonna have Dr. Doug Bolton come in on, we actually have a night, and we'll, April 13th. He is a psychologist that spoke at our Staff Institute Day a couple years ago.
Really
He's
good.
really excellent. He's written a great book called Untethered. Nora's an expert on it. The most recently, the person that's finished it most recently. But really, this big idea that schools can be this incredibly supportive, healing place. As schools are really this time where kids have this unique opportunity to connect with caring and trusted adults and with each other. I think he's a great speaker, and he's going to talk about the myths that undermine childhood well-being. What's that?
The parenting myth.
The parenting myths, right? Parenting myths. So we'll start promoting that. We just confirmed that, and trying to sort of have this have a sense of it separate and aside than like the work of Buddy's Place with Hauser parents. All very important work, but want this to feel more of a general session. All parents are absolutely welcome, and we'll work with the PTAs and PTOs and our own communications plan to get the word out, because I think he's an excellent speaker and it's an important topic. And we just sort of decided with the conversations we've been having about social emotional learning, the tragedy at Hauser, et cetera, it just feels like doing something that feels very strongly in the SEL realm is a good connection point for families.
So it's parenting myths
That
I heard that
undermine childhood
child-
well-being.
Childhood well-being. That sounds different than the last one. That wasn't what he, I think, did at Institute. Because whatever he did at that your kickoff day, I think it was the next year I went to the Institutes, the big joint conference thing, and he was a presenter, and I went to it. It was exactly the same material and pretty much the same presentation, just as engaging. He really is a good speaker. It's really good content. This sounds a little different, so when I saw that note come out about him, I got excited about that one.
Yeah.
I'll put that on my calendar.
Good.
And that will be at Hauser, likely.
Yeah, the auditorium's usually our best place. You know, again, it's a hard one to always try to project the number that we would get, but I know sometimes when it's been a small group, we even have moved it into the library, just 'cause it's a little more of an intimate setting. But yeah, we'll start with the Hauser's, the best location for us.
Cool. Okay. And then Martha presented the dates for strategic planning for those participating in the committee. And we talked about some different activities that the different PTAs and PTOs are doing, and also had a little discussion about fifth grade games night. On the whole, individually, all that fun stuff. Also, I will plug, because why not, that Hauser's pasta dinners tomorrow.
Yep.
And that's a big fundraiser for them. There is, eighth grade leadership is gonna be doing family tours. There'll be a nice way for incoming sixth grade families to get an idea of what Hauser looks like. There will be a book fair from Anderson's, and it's the first time they're using Anderson's for book fair. And they'll have their famous Domino's cards for sale, which I love, and every PTA also purchases because we use them for everything. Yeah, I think there was a lot of good ideas about some events that PTAs can do, but other than that, we were cold. And there was e-learning happening.
We appreciate parents joining us while
Yeah,
I think they had
it
their
was a great
kids over on
discussion.
e-learning in the
Yeah,
other area of the house.
little bandwidth problems here and there, but that is it.
Okay. I apologize again for skipping over. Now, Policy Committee, Ms. Gunn was not able to be here tonight, but really, I'm assuming that, was there anything that she wanted to bring up?
No, there was no additional discussion on the Press 120, and we have it all set to go for approvals at the regular board meeting in February.
Any comments to take back from any second readings before we get there? Or to discuss tonight? No? Okay.
I'm remembering there were a couple of the policies had a choice, and I'm not sure that we had gotten on the choice on those, but maybe we're sticking with the defaults.
I think we had talked, yeah.
Sticking with,
Yes, they're
Yeah.
noted on the agenda.
Okay.
okay, yeah, I thought we were sticking with the defaults, okay. All right. That's the agenda tonight. Nobody came in, so I'm guessing no more public comment, or no public comment. So future dates are February 18th, as we just discussed, regular business meeting at 7 p.m. in Hauser Auditorium. March 4th, Committee of the Whole meeting at 7 p.m. in the multipurpose room at Ames. March 18th, regular business meeting at 7 p.m. in the Hauser Learning Resource Center. And April 1st is canceled because we will all be on spring break. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.